Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hennessy, and I created this channel to talk through all things investing in Dominican Republic, working from home, and traveling. So, in today's video, I actually want to make this a discussion. So, I would hope you guys engage and comment below. But lately, I've been seeing a few videos come across my Instagram feed about these two guys talking about why they wouldn't invest in DR and why the United States is a better investment. And I thought that was very interesting. And I want to kind of provide my point of view. As someone who has invested in the United States and owns a house, and also obviously the reason you guys are here, started to invest in Dominican Republic. Now, I think it's hard to compare these two markets, and they shouldn't be compared because the return on investment for any business in DR does not compare to the return of investment for something in the United States. And the simple answer to that is just based on the currency. Now obviously there's factors to that. You could definitely, and I'm not saying you can't make a lot of money in DR, because let me tell you, one thing that I've learned in the last 7 years now that I've been really focused on traveling to DR and investing in DR. Well, 5 years investing, but 2 years before that, I was really going to DR and traveling and just getting to know like the different places. The one thing I've learned in the last 7 years is that you live a better quality of life, and there's definitely ways to make a lot of money in DR. So, I'm not saying that you cannot make money. I'm just saying that it's hard to compare when the currency is just not the same. So talking about real estate though and investment, let's talk about what makes DR a little bit harder to invest in, but not impossible, and the things that you should do to make sure that you're getting a high return on investment. So, the number one thing that makes the US kind of a little bit more attractive in the terms of uh, investing in real estate, it's actually the mortgages and the interest rates that are set. In the US, you get a lower percentage of interest rates, which obviously, like now, they're high, but it's still lower in comparison. In DR, the way that prices for housing is going up. I don't know if you guys seen the video, but every time I get like a real estate video, and obviously it's like luxury properties, there's different types of properties for everyone. Let's say that. But every time I get one of these little bit more luxurious like videos showing an apartment or a house, and they're like $800,000, right? Because that's the funny thing, right? Your return on investment is technically in pesos or in that market of just pesos, but they're selling your real estate in dollars. So that's definitely something to consider, especially because of interest rates. So you're going to the bank and you're requesting a loan, you know, the interest rates are really high, and I'm not gonna lie, they do hurt. They do hurt when you make those monthly payments and you see how much of it is actually going to the loan versus how much they're taking from interest. You're like, "Oh my god, this is like terrible." And by the time, and if you do the math, by the time you finish paying, right? And in DR you can get mortgages for different time periods. I know somebody else commented that they were giving them a mortgage for 5 years or something like that, or 10 years. I can't remember. Someone commented that. But I got a 20-year mortgage. And even I got a 20-year mortgage because I requested that. They were offering me 30 years, which is the max. And I said, no, 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 I don't want to do 30 years. I want to do 20. Um, which I am glad I kind of said 20, but also, again, when I'm looking at the payments and I'm looking at how much interest is going to the bank versus what's actually going to the loan itself, and you calculate that and you calculate it in a 20-year time period, I'm buying my apartment like three times. I'm buying my apartment at three times. So, there's definitely things to consider. So let's talk about it, right? If you want to get the highest return of investment for your property in DR, it's not about not buying, but it's about buying sort of smartly, right? And the number one way to buy is all cash. You got the money, you could go to DR and you can invest all cash, buy your property, buy your apartment, guess what? You buy, and whether you're doing Airbnb, whether you're renting it locally, whatever you decide to do, you're already a step ahead, because in the future, if you decide to sell, you can actually sell at a price where it's going to be fair to you. You're going to be able to see that equity, and you're not setting the price based on the emotion of paying all you've paid and then wanting to price it at a price to be able to get that return of investment, which happens with a lot of people that usually want to sell their home in DR. So in this case, number one way, let's put it here. Number one way, just buy it all cash. Now, I know that sounds nice, right? But me and you, I don't know if you could, please do it. But me and you, maybe we cannot, okay? I don't come for money. I'm working hard for it. It's hard to put, 200K together to go buy a property all cash and be like, "Yep, this is what I'm doing," right? So of course we got to be able to utilize other ways, because financially we just don't have it like that, but that doesn't mean we cannot invest, right? So it's not about telling people don't invest in DR, you should invest in the US instead, but instead giving them the information on ways that they can invest smartly, because again, we don't come from money, right? And if I'm not mistaken, they say that rich people don't use their own money, right? They use the bank. So this is one of those things where it's like, if you're rich it sounds nice, but if you're poor it's like, what are you doing? If rich people are using the bank, then why can't we, right? Which brings me then to my second point, which is you go the I don't have the money, so I'm going to go to the bank and borrow the money, because that's just what we could do financially. I have the down payment, I have the 40K, 50K, but I don't have the 200K to be able to buy a property. Let me go to the bank and utilize the bank to buy a property that I want. So this is the part that's important, because um really, when you go to the bank, right, you obviously want to make sure that you could do the monthly payments. So that's number one. The second part to that, if you want to minimize how much you're giving the bank in terms of um, interest, you want to apply the same strategies people say here in the US. Like, why not? Which is, you make your monthly payment, put something against the principal, which you can. It's not against the rules, okay? So they say that here, right? I remember seeing videos of people that do real estate here that are, you know, your real estate go-to people, and they're like, even $100 you're gonna put towards your principal. You're gonna do the same thing in DR. You're gonna make that monthly payment, right? And then you're going to straight to your principal, you're going to add an amount. And what happens is that over time you're reducing the monthly payments, because you're giving an extra monthly payment to the principal, and you know that that second payment is going straight to the principal versus them getting interest on it. So you end up saving a lot of money. So you want to utilize that same strategy. So again, it's not about not investing, because we're not rich and we want a property back home, right? We want to invest in our home country. So what's the best way to do it? Still utilize the bank, because again, we ain't rich, right? We're going to utilize the bank, but what we're going to do is that we're going to give during our monthly payments, we're going to do our monthly payments, whatever that amount is. And then I personally, what I've been doing is that I give whatever they charge me for my um, monthly payment that's going to my principal, I add that. So basically, in a month, I'm paying the principal, I'm putting money towards the principal two times, which is reducing it by one payment at the end of the 20 years, right? So I like to do that, but you can also put less. Maybe it's like I'm just putting $100 less. The point is to give extra money to your principal to try to reduce how many monthly payments in the lifetime of that loan you're actually going to make. So, those are the two things. The third thing that you can do is the combination of sort of both, right? And the combination of both is when you buy your apartment in the construction phase. Now, this is always going to be the cheaper phase of it, because you're opting for the idea that this is going to get constructed and that there's not going to be delays, or that they're not going to scam you, right? So you buy an apartment within the construction phase, and we all know, or if you don't know, the process of getting an apartment or a property within construction phase is that you reserve it with $1,000 down. This is always the same process, by the way. Reserve with $1,000 down. Then you have to sign a contract saying that you're buying X property. And when you sign that contract, you have to give the 20% down. So you're going to give the 20% down. Sometimes, people have like another step there. So it's like you reserve with 1,000, you pay 5,000 after that. And then at the time you're signing the contract, you pay whatever's the remaining to get to like the 20% down. But regardless, by the time you sign the contract, most places are going to want the 20% down. That's just the way it is. Then after that, they're gonna put you a monthly payment for the time that they're going to be doing this construction. So if you're buying in a construction phase, usually construction takes 2 to 3 years. Yep. Yep, 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 yep. It does take that long. It takes 2 to 3 years because usually the people that are building this, they're doing it in a max capacity. So it just takes time. Everything takes time. It takes planning. It takes working. It's not easy. It's not easy to build. So guess what? You are buying a property in the construction phase, you're not going to see it for 3 years. And sometimes even more because sometimes they tell you a date. And what I've seen that 98% of the time, your apartment will not be done by that date. No, it will not be done by that day. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But what they do is that they put a monthly payment. And this is the great part of that because you're not getting charged interest for this monthly payment. You're putting that payment straight to the property, and they're basically saying by the time you finish, the construction is done, you should have already given a full like 40 to 50% of the property value. So again, you gave 20% when you signed that contract, and then the other 20% or 30%, they basically break it down to monthly payments for the duration of the construction. Now, the good thing to do here is, again, if at the end of your construction, that 50% or 60% that you have left, you either have to pay it all up front or you have to go to the bank to be able to take out a loan. Now, if you want to reduce the going to the bank, or if you want to go to the bank but maybe not with the total 50%, then all you have to do is give extra payments during that duration. So like let's say that you're like, oh, I don't want to go to the bank and get the value of the 50% of the value of the property. Maybe I want to do less. So maybe every month I'm giving 500 or 1,000 extra to that monthly payment um that the developer told me, because again, there is no interest to that payment. You're just making a payment that's going straight to the value of that property. So the more you can give towards it, the better it is at in the long run, because once the property is completed, you have to get the remainder balance and give it to the developer. So whether that's all cash or whether you're going to the bank, you still have to give that value. So you might as well just break it down too and give a little bit more. That way you're either paying it all in full by the time it's the construction is done, or you're going to the bank for obviously like a small amount, which then the interest rate, although percentage is high, it may be obviously your payments and everything is just going to be less, which is going to ease the burden on you. Um, to have to pay that. Now, all of this is great. Again, you want to minimize that because the value of your property is only going to go up a certain percentage. So again, an example for me is that I took out a 20-year mortgage. My interest rate at the time that they gave me, which I think it's higher now, but the time they gave me 13% interest rate, it's higher now. So this was what, like 2.5 years ago? 13.5% interest rate. And if I just make my monthly payments, right? By the time I'm done paying it, I've paid the apartment 3 times because interest is just that the amount that they're taking on a monthly basis is just that crazy. So again, to minimize that, you either pay it all cash, which I don't know, I don't got it like that. So it ain't me, okay? Go to the bank and, make sure you're putting your tips and tricks to work, which is giving the extra payment to the principal, or giving 2 payments, 3 payments, whatever you can. Or in a year, you're like, hey, at the end of the year, I'm gonna go give 5K to the principal, just at the end of every year. However you want to do it, but as long as you're giving extra payments to the principal. And then the third just buying in the construction phase, and during that taking advantage of that construction phase to not have any interest and actually be able to give your money straight to the value of the property, and be able to minimize either going to the bank or just having paid the apartment or the property by the time it gets done being constructed. So that's my thought. It's not about whether you should or shouldn't invest in DR, or whether DR is not an ideal market to invest in compared to the US. I don't like to compare the two. They just look different. You just got to apply the same shit. Like, give those, they tell you that here, right? You buy a house, they like make that extra payment. Apply that same knowledge there, right? So use the construction phase to pay the value of the property. Do those things. So it's not about not investing, but just investing smartly. I hope that's useful. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Definitely would love to hear from you, and see you guys next time.